Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Hey team, welcome back to the Well Coached podcast. We are so lucky today to have my good friend Marcus Henderson here today. He is a distinguished leader in the financial services industry and helps make sure that I have money in the bank and that my wife is not taking aim at me on a daily basis. And we'll get into that and how that goes as well. He is the president and CEO of his own company, Henderson Financial Group. I've been with him for several years now. Several of the people I get to work with utilize his trust and expertise and services as well. He's based down in Brentwood. He has been in the forefront of wealth management since 1989.
That's correct.
Yeah, you got some laps on you, man.
Yeah.
And some great experience there. He's a native Nashvilleian, so he's one of the unicorns here, and he's accomplished. This guy's been inducted to the John Hancock's Hall of Fame, which is a very distinguished group there. Only 213 folks have ever been in that group, and he's one of them. Beyond his professional achievements, which are many, he also gives back to the community. He is a treasurer and chief financial officer of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. He has a deep commitment to faith and family, and we're going to dive into all of that. And so in our typical lane of people, sales, profit, self, we're going to go through Marcus's journey, pick up some tidbits, and welcome.
Great to be here, Chris.
Yeah,
Great
man.
to be here sitting with
Mark,
you.
we've known each other for several years now.
We have, and I had an affinity for you. I mean, the first time we got together, I was like, I like this guy. I like this guy.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to give a little bit more backstory that I think Marcus knows, but when I moved to Nashville 14 years ago, 15 years, whatever it was, I'm a coach, and so oftentimes my clients need good financial advice, and I know now how not to get over my skis. And so I was seeking out a great advisor that I could just be a referral partner and good collaborator with. And so most of you don't know this, but my mother is a CFA and ran a big investment firm in her tenure. And I told her I needed help finding somebody. So she lives in Charlotte. So she went to work on it and started researching in Nashville. And that's how we got to you.
And his mother, he's being very modest. His mother's pretty major. She's pretty major. So it's somebody that we respect as well, and thankful that she thought enough of us to share not only the friendship but the relationship as well.
Yeah, well, it's been great. So we'll rock and roll here and get going. So we're going to start in that people lane. Okay, I'm going to start firing some questions to you, and we're going to talk about team building and leading your dedicated team. So at Henderson Financial Group, you guys emphasize this holistic approach to wealth management. How do you go about cultivating that team that embodies that philosophy and ensures that clients receive comprehensive, personalized advice?
Yeah, one of the things that I had a client that was very successful told me something one day, and didn't make sense at the time, but she said, when you find someone that you would like to add to the firm, add them before you need them. And I was like, boy, that can cost a lot. And she said, you're correct. It does cost a lot. But by the time that you need them, you won't be able to find them. And, she was so correct in that aspect, because everyone that's at the firm, I really brought them in before we needed them. It was the vision of not where we are, but where we're going. And what happens so many times with so many entrepreneurs is that they get to focusing in on where they are now. And that makes you make limited decisions. You don't want to invest because I can't afford it right now. But you have to be looking forward. You have to take the risk, because innately that's what we are. We're risk takers to some extent. Yeah. And we have to be in a position where we're looking not for today, but for, 5-10 years later.
A little bit more proactive than reactive.
Yeah. And, most people, and you will see that many people, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, because everybody thinks that we have control of our time. We make all this money, we earn all this money. We don't make money, we earn all this money. But the truth of the matter is this: if you talk to what I like to categorize as a self-made entrepreneur, you find they're pretty down-to-earth people. because they had to sit in that exact chair where you're sitting now, and they're not impressed with themselves.
Right.
Because you get up every day when you're tired, when you don't feel like it, and you go through and everybody gives you the accolades, but the truth of the matter, you know that sometimes you're just holding on. So I'm thankful for where we are. I'm thankful not just because I am where I am, but what you had to go through to get there. So to my people, everyone at the firm has been there 10 plus years, and your profits are where your consistencies are. And one of the things that I appreciate about that time is the fact that each and every one of them, we know each other well. And where does that play? Well, when we went through the COVID situation and we had to work without seeing each other because everybody was remote, we were more productive than we've ever been because everybody was doing exactly what they were positioned to do. But I'll be quite frank, I was the biggest one. I thought you had to see people to see them working.
Right.
And you don't.
Mm-hmm.
If you hire the right people, build the right team situation, it just puts you at a whole different level. So I'm thankful for the 7 people that I work with. Sometimes we get as high as 10 when necessary. We bring in CPAs, different things like that. But it's very difficult. You have to find the people before you need the people.
That's great. And that's hard to grasp as an entrepreneur because you're living in so many moments and just trying to get to the next day. So that's great advice, trying to have a strategic brain of looking forward.
That's right.
And then I love what you said about, maybe paraphrasing, the profits follow the consistency.
Profits follow consistency.
Yeah, and
that's right.
So guys out there in podcast land, that's what we talk about, right? Consistency creates credibility. And getting the reps in, and your core domain expertise eventually is going to monetize.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you something else to that point about my team member. I used to think that you want to bring in people that were much like you, and that's not what you want to bring in. You want to bring in a diversity of people because the clients that you bring in are also diversified. So when you see that situation, I have noticed that each client gravitates towards one or the other person within the firm.
Okay.
And I love that because what that does as well is it takes it off of you to have to satisfy that one particular need of that client. They will call LaDonna, or they will call Yolanda, or they will call Michonne. And that works great because it once again, it edifies and supports the team effort.
That's another great one there, guys. We talk about what I call that is we want the family tree to fork. I like that. And entrepreneurs, hiring is so difficult, right? And especially when you're young, you don't know what you're doing, and people tend to hire in likeness of themselves by accident.
That's right.
And so then you become siloed thinkers.
We hire who we are.
That's right. We hire who we are.
That's
so in our hemisphere, we use DISC profile a lot to help say how does this person think, and that's great. We do the very same thing, and I'm glad you walked right into that without a question because you're reaffirming what I try to practice.
We're practicing what we preach.
Yeah,
we're
practicing what we preach.
That's right.
How do you've had that team together for so long, and you have a great team. How do you guys keep it fresh? How do you keep morale high? How do you keep everybody aligned over these long periods of time?
Well, first of all, the world has changed. Mm-hmm. And it used to be that it was pretty easy. Compensation was tied to everything. Yep. But now the world is that, some people like to work from home more. Some people like to be tied to be able to travel. Some people, I think about Todd, which is my COO.
Yep.
He will be in the office every day at 7:00.
Yep.
But generally, he's gone a little bit earlier, so he has a flex time situation. So we have to now judge things a little differently, not just by the time and effort economy. With time and effort meaning I put in 8 hours, put in this effort, you pay me. Now we have to look at the result economy. And the result economy says, how's the job getting done? Is the job getting done well? Are the people happy? One of the things that I tell my wife is one of the administrators in the office, and I tell her, honey, don't manage the people. Because if you're managing the people, we've got the wrong person. Manage the atmosphere of the office. Keep it positive. Keep it where nobody has to worry about technology. We celebrate birthdays. We do all of those things that if you're in the atmosphere, you don't want to leave that kind of atmosphere, and you start to protect it.
Excellent. So he said a whole lot there, and we call that let's measure results, not effort, or let's measure result, not methods.
Yes.
Unless those methods don't align with your core value or something like that.
That's right.
And that's hard. That's hard for young entrepreneurs to do because we think you got to have the thumb on them to get results or all that. But if you're hiring highly competent people that are aligned with your mission, micromanagement shouldn't be a part of it.
And they decide to become, notice I never say work for me. It's always a team situation. Right. A partnership situation. That's important because I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel as though they're contributing and they're making a difference. Mm-hmm. And you've got to give them the latitude to do that in their unique ability.
Right.
See, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a unique ability. And if you take and you look at the top 25 things that a person has every day, which I think is far too many, you've got to whittle that down to like your top 5 or 3 things, and then build people around you that will do the other 20 things that they have a unique ability in that area. Now, that sounded very simple, but I tell you, that's
a chore.
It's a chore.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have had to curate my firm for now, and I was just looking at the other day, about 35 years. I started practicing, of course, in 1989, and here we are going on in 2025. That has been the biggest challenge. Is every year you just shave off a little bit. You look at, okay, this is what are we missing? And we take that evaluation every year.
Yeah, so consistent student of the game and consistent performance.
Dedicated student of the business.
That's
is what
right.
we called it. Dedicated student of the business.
And for entrepreneurs out there, a lot of what we're saying sounds great, right? But when you're brand new, of course, you've got to be the jack of all trades. But as soon as you can start pushing things down that org chart where it can be handled appropriately, you do it, right? Because like he said, you've got a zone of excellence, and the primary nirvana is to when you can be accountable for everything but responsible for very little. And you can only do that if you've got qualified people around you.
That's right. And notice what Chris just said when he mentioned the org chart. Historically, a org chart showed going up. Well, now we build it where I'm in the center and everybody else is in the orbit around me, so that there's no big me or little you. It's just us, and us with different talents and expertises. So that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, well, you're feeding me perfectly. We have another acronym for that. With us, I call that this circle of influence inside a sphere of concern. So that circle of influence for each of your team members, that's their domain expertise.
That's right.
But since you've already got them in a circle, thank you, they're concerned about all of it, right? You're aligned in all of it. But each person's got their main circle of influence, but they're concerned about the whole business. So that circle analogy is perfect.
Wow.
So thank you for making me.
We are aligned today.
Thank you, make me look decent. Your firm, you guys offer these curated advice programs like the Master's Manifesto and the Doctor's Diagnosis.
Yes.
Talk to me about those a little bit.
Yeah. What we decided is that you never want to be a jack of all trade and a master of none. And what we have decided is that we work in specific areas with specific people, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's most of the time clergy, and or people what we call unique positions, such as if you are a senator or if you are a high-ranking person within a denomination. So these are people that we feel don't ever need to see their name in the paper for financial situations.
Okay.
Now, what we also found is that these are extremely talented people, bright. But as we all know, you can only be bright in certain areas.
Right.
So we figure if we get around them with a trust effort, we're able to allow them to go deeper into whatever it is they do, and they can delegate those things to us. My wife tells me all the time, Mark, you really don't know anything but finance. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing because we do pretty well with this. So the goal is not to become that jack of all trades but a master of none. The goal is to become a master of one thing. And that's really where we try to stay and keep our wheelhouse in that area.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Find your zone of excellence and stick to it. Yeah.
Most people go, unfortunately, go to their grave and never really find out what they're really good at because they're trying this and then they're trying this. And as you know, and your listeners know, it takes a moment to figure out what it is you're good at.
Right.
And then once you get good at it, how do you become excellent?
Mm-hmm.
Because good's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Good will just make you a small living. You've got to be excellent. And then from excellence, you've got to get into what we call the UA. And the UA is called your unique ability. What is it that only you have? Because at the end of the day, you can find a financial advisor, you can find a coach, you can find all of that. But what about being a financial advisor or a coach that makes you unique? What is it? Is that's your gift? And that's what you focus on. You focus on that gift, and all of a sudden, you have clients that will see it, understand it, and want to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I use that analogy for we're basically all in the commodity business. Plenty of people do what I do. There are plenty of people do what you do.
That's right.
Whatever your special sauce is what's creating the raving fan to your law of attraction. You're drawing people in based on your unique ability. Well, if you can announce your unique ability.
That's right.
And if you can get into your zone of that.
And you've got to and here's the thing, Chris, you bring that such a great point up. Everything around you tries to take you out of that unique ability. So once you get there, you really have to curate yourself to stay there. And you also have to curate the people around you to understand that's where you need to be. Because the moment that you come out of it and start doing something else, because I have one person at the office, Linda will tell me, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're not good at doing this. Go do what you're good at.
Good.
And I'm like, well, thank you so much. And she's been there. She's the longest. She's been there 20 years. And I appreciate how she can see when I have drifted.
Right.
Because we all drift.
Mm-hmm.
And she we need you doing this. If you do this, we're all good. And it's just a perfect relationship. I'm so thankful to have people around me like that.
That's awesome. That sounds pretty similar to my Elizabeth. And she will jerk me in line in a hurry.
Absolutely.
And we need it.
Well, she gets it.
That's right.
She gets it.
That's right.
And you need people that get it.
Yeah, that's great. What about that? You do a lot with community involvement and with the church and your faith. How does engaging with those things, how does that influence the firm's culture and success?
Certainly. We practice what I call lifestyle marketing. And lifestyle marketing for me is that we do the things that are not only good for us, but they're good for others. And I'm not trying to draw, any attention, but what happens is, good follows good.
Yep.
Bad follows bad.
Amen
so if
that.
you're in a good situation and you're doing good things, all of a sudden people just show up, whether it's the press, whether somebody writes about you or someone
put you on their podcast.
Yeah, put you on their podcast. Last week we were thankful enough to be interviewed by the Middle Tennessee Urban League, which ran all month. We had no idea that they wanted to do this little conference or meeting, and it was going to run all week, and then the next week, and then the next week. So things just follow. Good follows good. And it's important for us just to be good community servants. We've gotten to the point now where it's always about me, mine, and ours, when it should be about us.
Right.
And if we can be in a position where we're helping others along the way and we are kind of pulling up as we climb, it makes us all stronger. And it positions us where we all win. In a football game, we may have some superstars there, but at the end of the game, either the team wins,
right,
or the team does not win.
Mm-hmm.
No one guy.
Hard to go alone.
Hard to take it alone. And that came from once again going back to the beliefs that your family put into you, and that was one of the things. My father being a pastor, my mother she worked a lot of jobs and enjoyed working. So if you take a combination of a pastor and a combination of a workaholic, you get me.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to be in that position because it feels as natural as can be to do multiple things. So you want to take care of course, family. You want to take care of your profession, faith, and then of course the community. So if you stay in those areas, you're tired at the end of the day, and you can take it home and put your head down.
Sleep well.
You can sleep well.
Let's move over to the sales questioning a little bit here. So your industry has had significant changes over the past few decades. How's your approach to acquiring and retaining clients evolved over the years?
Yeah, I used to hate it. I really did. I didn't want to sell anybody. I didn't want to do any of that kind of stuff. And what we decided, if you imagine a boat going down a river, and you had people on there with fishing apparatus, I wanted to be the boat going down the river without any fishing poles, without any bait, but the boat looked so good that the fish would jump into the boat. That was my goal. Okay, I saw that analogy, and I tried to create that. So thus, when you talk about those 3 areas where we focus, if you take it and focus your company or whatever it is, the services that you are, and you make it so that it looks exactly like what they want to see, they will jump in the boat. They will find you. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've tried to do. And we just try to get better and better at that. And then, everybody always says, well, we just work off of referrals. Well, our referrals come from clients that are just pleased with where we are in one of those 3 areas. Mm-hmm. And much like yourself, we've gotten to the point where we don't take on everybody. The same way that they are looking at us first, we're looking at them. Right. Because it is a commitment of time. Mm-hmm. It is something that is very personal to us. I don't want to ever step into a situation with a client and we don't end better than when we started. Right. And some people, unfortunately, they're just taking on bodies. And I'm not a body person. If you're having a client just left the office, she's turning 65 and she's already planning her retirement party that's going to be December 13th, one day after she turns 65. And she invited me. We already got it on the calendar.
That's good news.
We're going to be there for that. So those are the type of things that I'm just having a really good time, but I cannot say to you, nor to any entrepreneur or probable entrepreneur now, that it starts out that way. Yeah. You've got to cast the vision of where you're going. And remember, everything is causing you and wanting you to look down when they talk about working in the business and not on the business. And everything wants you to work in the business, but you've got to rise up. And, and here's the thing to remember. You're the only one that can rise up.
That's right.
If someone in your office is rising up and working on the business instead of in the business, eventually they're going to have their own business.
That's right. Yeah.
And you've got to be that person.
That's right.
And that's what we have to stay.
If you've got a team member outrunning you with your brain power, they're going to go do it for themselves at some point, which is fine.
That
might be fine.
No issue with that. Right. But understand that that's always something that could occur. So it also makes you understand how to recruit, what they're looking for. Some people are, I think about my COO, Todd, one of the most talented advisors, intricate in his thought, can carry out it, but he will tell you, I'm a number 2 man.
You're right.
That's what I want to be. And let me tell you something. I'm number 2, and I'm the best number 2 you're going to find. And he proves that year in and year out. So my success becomes his success, and we make sure not only just from a positionary and all of those kind of things, but financially he understands that he's appreciated.
Yeah. Well, he is appreciated. I can tell you that. So
yeah, that's exactly right.
No, he's a great wingman for you for sure. You guys offer a range of services, and for retirement planning, investment management, that certainly requires a really deep understanding of the client's goals, right? And how do you assess and align your services to meet the diverse objectives of different clients?
Yeah, one of the things that I have instituted, it's been about 5 years now, is I never meet a client in the office alone. Okay. And the reason why is that I want to have the conversation that we're having now. And I always have someone that's next to me that's either a paraplanner or our director of private client business and all of those things right next to me, listening as well. Because I want to be able to hear the unheard. I want to be able to hear what they did not say, because what that does, you can then, once again, you can go to all these other advisors and all of those things, and everybody has the same products and services. You can go to Wells Fargo. They all have the same, but it's not about whether or not you go to the doctor and he can implement or prescribe you lisinopril. They can all do that. It's whether or not you felt heard when you sat down. So, once again, when we sit there, I'm listening for what your biases are, what you've gone through, what's brought you to this current point of consciousness. Then we make sure that we do all the financial planning, we do all of the due diligence, we do all of that, but then we make recommendations based on what those personal goals are. as opposed to saying, oh, you need an annuity. Oh, you need a mutual fund. Those things, that's just the medicine.
Right.
How did you get sick?
Mm-hmm.
And some sicknesses are going to be there. See, what I've learned over the years is that we can change, but not much. Some of the things we just are. And what we find is that we find people, places, and things that accept us like we are, because it's easier that way. Now, that's not to say we can't change, but it is to say that we don't change much. We may improve some, but we've got to build a cadre of people and things around us that allow us to blossom, utilize our unique ability, and grow from there. And that's the biggest thing, I think, over the years that I have realized about myself. There's some things I just can't stop. I enjoy talking to people, and I can't sit there and not. I want to engage. I actually want to know what's going on in their lives.
Right.
So that's not something that you can stop. You just need to build situations around you to catch all the other things that go. In estate planning, you can have a trust, but the attorney will also tell you need to have a pour-over will. A pour-over will catches all the stuff that you may have missed.
Right.
And that's how we try to operate.
That's so good. And I'll use my personal experience with Marcus. When my wife and I, who is far more conservative than me, far more, she wouldn't spend a dime if it were up to her. And I remember one of the first meetings with Marcus where I said, this is my guy. He looked at her and he said, Roxanne, you've got to allow him a little bit of flexibility every year. So we budget for that, right? We follow her conservative nature on the investments, but Marcus, it's better for my marriage when we show up at your office, because it's not just me saying it. It's you going, hey, you're okay. We got this side protected. And I think with your business is probably, I have this motto in mind where my mission with every one of my clients, and I bet this is similar to you, is maximize shareholder value, but always be looking for survival of the enterprise.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Always be optimistic. Increase shareholder value, but where are the cliffs? Right? And I'm thinking that with my folks, even if I'm not announcing it to them, I'm thinking that nonstop around them. And I feel like that's with you too, with me. You're like, here's what we're going to do. Yep, you can go play here, but not too much, because here's the bottom of it. So, and that advice and that approach has worked great with my family.
Like I said, you can't change an entrepreneur too much. They are what they are. And if you start to curtail them,
if you put too much of a thumb, they're not going to listen to anything.
They're not going to listen to anything because it feels uncomfortable for them. It's not who they are. So you have to allow them to have their way forward that they see best, but also look on this other end and say, just in case that don't go right, we're still okay.
Yeah.
And the great thing about working with successful entrepreneurs like yourself is that there's a big gap between what they want to do and where everybody else is. So even if we fall short, they're still going to be okay.
Right.
You just have to plan for it.
Yeah.
So that, to your point, is absolutely
well, that's
correct.
Master navigation, because so many times I would think that entrepreneurs may or may not have an entrepreneur type spouse. And those two, I live it. Those two ways of thinking
I live it as well.
So different.
I live it as well.
But you have mastered a way to have us meet in the middle. And there's no way I'll ever meet our meetings, because it helps my marriage when she can hear from you. You're fine.
We're good. We are good. We are good.
And I think too, let's talk about that remote, or where you mentioned like the banks. Anybody can walk into a bank and buy a mutual fund, but you guys really have this tailored experience. And you talked about wanting to see the client. And I'm the same way. I want to come sit in your office.
Yes.
Last thing I want from you is a Zoom invite.
Yeah.
And so I think sometime maybe some of the younger generation gets lost in that. Like, not everything should be behind a screen.
Well, let me give you something, a point. I saw a point in our industry where they said you needed to go to not having a front office person. You just needed to have a 1-800 number.
Okay.
Well, can you imagine calling the office and you go on the 1-800 number trying to get, so they said, well, you can save so much money. Well, you can also lose so much money, because when somebody calls the office and they know it's Chris, they're going to ask about you, they're going to ask about your wife, they're going to ask about your daughter, and that is what keeps the engagement there. A 1-800 number wouldn't know to do that and won't ever do that. But so you got to monitor the technological advances that you see going on. And you're exactly right. Zoom is great. I tell you what, Zoom has really picked up for us. This I did not expect this. My strategic assistant, Ileana, really appreciates dealing with older people.
Okay.
She actually gets on and shows them how to use Zoom so they don't have to come in when it's 22 degrees outside or when they leave further away. And they just love the experience of this. So that was unexpected. The last thing that you would expect is an 80-year-old getting on Zoom, but they've learned something new. They get to talk to me and they say, I just love this. And now I will tell you, one of the things that grew out of that is that instead of doing a 6-month review, they want to do it every month. We just need to get on. I'm like, well, I can't do it like that. But that was an interesting part of this new technological wave.
How interesting.
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected. But if you think about it, their grandchildren are also the ones that are showing them how to text and all of those things. So when Ileana started doing that for them, that was a new thing, and they just loved it. And and I have one that she's, well, I need to set up a Zoom call. Well, I need to talk to Marcus. Do you want to talk to him on the phone? No, I want to talk to him on Zoom. She won't even call me anymore, and she's like 79 years old. She want to do a Zoom, and she'll call. We'll talk for 3 or 4 minutes, but she wanted a Zoom call.
My 81-year-old mother was FaceTiming with my 3-year-old daughter last night.
There you go. There you go. They want that connection.
Crazy.
So I think sometimes you have to be flexible enough to understand that the world is changing, embrace it as best you can, and be in a position where you can make it work for whatever enterprise it is that you're working with. Now, one of the things that working and keeping your head in the business, you're not able to see those changes are coming. Mm-hmm. You've got to work on the business and not just in it.
Amen to that. Let's move into the profit section a little bit and balancing profitability with client-centric values. In your industry, profitability and client interest kind of got to go hand in hand.
Sure.
So how do you ensure that the firm's financial goals align with providing the unbiased and beneficial advice to clients?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we embraced very early on was becoming a fiduciary. So, you hear
and tell people what that means.
Simply meaning that we align our goals with your goals. We put ourselves in a position, much like an attorney, whereas we have to win together. And that was something that we saw coming, oh my gosh, 30 years ago, because, there were advisors out there that could, truth of the matter, they could earn money and the client not be doing well, which never made sense to me. Mm-hmm. You had to be an advisor that wanted that to happen, which thankfully we've always been. But when we saw the opportunity to become a fiduciary and work much like an attorney would work, fee type services, that just changed the whole game for us. Because now when the client says something, we're not only listening to it, but we're acting on it. Whereas it could have been a time if we acted or not, we got paid.
Right.
And that just didn't, even I could see as a very young advisor age, as my CPA would say, that didn't make good nonsense. So we didn't want to continue down that path. We made the independency change years and years ago. Many advisors would work for one company. That didn't make sense because in my world, if another company had a better product, a better service, a better technique, I needed to be able to access it. So we made that choice 25 years ago to become independent. So we truly represent the client as opposed to some company or some product or some situation that would not be the best implementation and or decision for the client. So we can always, much like this, we sit on a round table. It's not client against us. We're sitting together working this thing hand in hand moving forward.
Yeah. So you don't have this one-size-fits-all approach, which there are people out there that do that still.
And the truth of the matter, Chris, it may work for them.
Right.
And that's usually more towards companies. I won't mention any names, but the companies, they're asset gatherers.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm gathering assets, I'm doing my job. But what about the person, and what about who they are, and where they're trying to go? And does that really fit what they're trying to do? Generally, it does not. But if you're an asset gatherer and that works, it works. So I've learned not to judge anyone, but I just know what works for our clients, our people, and our firm.
Yeah. And then, talk a little bit about you're a fee-based service, and maybe explain to some folks what that means versus I can go to Vanguard today and get a no-load fund and not pay a dime. And my theory on that is I don't write my own prescriptions when I'm sick. and I want experts around my corner, and I don't expect that to be free.
What has happened is it's become so easy for it to be easy. Mm-hmm. And that that never works. It works when times are good. But, right now, let's just take right now, we're in an interesting economic time. And what I mean by that, we're watching some things come out of Washington we just had 6,000 internal revenue people laid off. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't know what that's going to be. Now I was talking to my CPA yesterday, and he said, Marcus, I was talking to someone at the IRS. He said, it normally takes me 2 hours. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you, sir, he said, I'm not sure when we're going to get this done, given where we are. So when things are okay, you can go buy a Vanguard fund. Right. But the truth of the matter is that when things are not, and, we all know to buy high, which is the opposite.
Here's some sage advice.
Here we go. I said that the right way. No, we know to buy low and sell high. But what people do is that they sell low and they buy high because they want to buy when it's going up, not knowing when you should have bought when it was down. And we manage three things, and I've learned this over the years. Number one, we manage the person's account. Okay, which is pretty easy. That's actually simple. Then we manage the client's expectations. Well, my friend did 16%. Well, we only did 12. Well, that means that you're structured differently. But the most important thing that we manage are our clients' emotions. Because depending upon where they are, if they just lost their husband, or if they just lost their wife, or if a child is going through something, or whatever the case may be, their emotions are off. Mm-hmm. And we've got to be able to check those emotions to make sure that we have them structured properly and they're thinking, there is nothing for a client to walk in and be 65 and say, Marcus, I didn't save well, and on a scale from 1 to 10, which that person at 65 probably needs to be about a 5 or 6 in the risk tolerance from 1 to 10. And they said, we need to take all the risk possible. We need to be a 9. Well, no, you passed your 9 years. Now what you're saying to me is I want to put everything I have at risk in hopes that it all works out positively. Well, the challenge behind that is that it never has.
Good luck.
And it hasn't. Right. So, good advice, good understanding, engaging advice has made all the difference in the world. That's one of the reasons why I try to stay, when the client is in, I try to stay in tune with the client eye to eye, because you can also tell, as you know, when a client didn't say everything, and I can push that everything. But if I'm taking notes and I'm looking down, I missed it. And I don't want to miss anything because this client is as important to our firm as the next one or the next one or the next one, because we curate so diligently.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because that computer screen where they're just buying things unadvised. Yeah, what happens when the ship starts taking on water? Yeah. I use the analogy of anybody can fly an airplane when the weather's clear.
That's right. That's right.
But then
and going straight.
Then you want that 30-year guy at Delta when it gets bumpy.
Given the current airplane situation right now, we definitely want somebody in that cockpit that knows where they're going.
Yeah, and I love the part you said about managing the emotions. And guys, money can be emotional, especially in business. It tends to be the last thing you learn, right? You kind of learn how to go sell something. You learn how to do your craft. And learning the financial part of the business is usually last. So
right.
if you're journeying that on your own, it can get really emotional, and to your point, take you off your game of, if you're worrying about that, you're not on your core mission.
That's right.
And so having someone really that is I like to call it a disinterested party. You don't have any emotion around it. you're able just to say, here's how we're doing. If we need to make changes, we can make changes, or keep doing what you're doing. And that provides a ton of comfort for me, and I'm sure all of your clients. And I want to get the message to younger entrepreneurs. You go get yourself a financial advisor before you think you need it.
That's right. Oh, absolutely.
Before you think you need it.
Absolutely. In fact, the less money you have is probably when you need it the most.
Yeah.
Because you don't have much to work with.
Right.
When you get larger sums of money, you're usually in a position where you can lose some and it doesn't hurt the same way. I'll never forget. It's so interesting you bring that up. I was going through a difficult time. And I talked to a more seasoned advisor one time, and he said, "Marcus, what's going on?" I said, "Man, business is good, but I'm just running myself to death." And he said, "Well, you need to go get someone like this." And he described my COO, Todd, before I met him. He described it.
Wow.
He said, "Go get someone that's an attorney." And I said, "An attorney?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "They've been to law school and they think differently than you and I. They are great number two people." And he said, "Here's the thing about lawyers." He said, "In Nashville, Tennessee," he said, "lawyers do well, but they will do better with your firm if you get them in the right place." Now, here's the kicker. Could your household, and this was, oh my God, 20 years ago, he said, could your household do with less of $100,000? I was like, $100,000? I mean, I could do it, but I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Trust me." He said, first of all, when people invest in other people, they feel like they would lose that investment. But if you get the right person, first of all, you don't lose it. You maybe lose for the first year 50%. Mm-hmm. The next year, you're up to only 80% is gone. I mean, they're producing at an 80% ratio. And from 3 years on, you're in the positive, mm-hmm. and you've taken off of your plate the things that you didn't want to do, you didn't have a unique ability in, and they love to do it, and you've provided for their family. You know, how he saw that, and he diagnosed it so fast. We were on a boat cruise, and by the time I got off that cruise, I came back home. I was blessed to find Todd. Todd's been there, and he's like my right hand. And we often say that we look at situations from different angles, but we always end up at the same place. Mm-hmm. And I am thankful for that, because it also allows for you not to think in areas that you're really not good in thinking in.
Right. That's right.
And it lets you focus more in the area that you are. And he always says it's like an interesting marriage, he and I. And we work it together and we keep this thing moving. We've been doing that for over 20 years now. Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. I think about it just back to my experience. With the combination of you and Todd, I get to set it and forget it. I don't have to worry about it, and I don't lose one night's sleep ever about it, because I know Todd's like your little mad scientist, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And then you're a great front man that can explain it, and y'all work great together. I mean, it works. I mean, you're both lucky to have that.
I am very blessed to have that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, once again. Looks good from afar, mm-hmm. But the truth of the matter, it took years to get to that point.
And I like what you said about your guy that gave you that advice. You're making an investment in that $100,000. You can't look at that as an expense.
Absolutely.
It's an investment.
Absolutely.
And so many of us get caught up in instant gratification and don't want to take that chance of, I can't let go of that money or that $100,000. But if you can play a little bit of long ball working on the business versus in the business, it becomes an easier decision.
Well, and here's something else, and this is to your profession. Over the years, I've had several coaches. In fact, I had a master class coach, and there is nothing better than having someone outside your profession give you evaluation of what they see. But here's the thing, because I did have some bad coaches, but if you have,
I have not been one of them.
Yeah, that's absolutely not. But and it's generally because they didn't have themselves together, or you were ahead of where they were, so they didn't know how to
You'd already outrun them.
Mm-hmm. But when you find that, and they can look and say, Marcus, if you just move to the left, mm-hmm. just a little bit, you'll do better.
Right.
And you trust them. Oh my gosh, it makes all the difference in the world. And it doesn't matter the profession. So, some would say, well, I'm a CPA, or I'm an attorney, or I'm a public speaker, or I'm a financial advisor. Well, at the end of the day, if you're running a business and that's whatever your specialty is, you need help running the business and running your life. You put those things together, then you end up doing better in a long period and playing that long ball.
Well, there's a lot there too, and you're right. I don't think the industry is specific, and every business has people, sales, profit, self. Every business. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're not sitting in a big public company with a big board telling you what to do. You need a disinterested advisor helping you just clear the runway, who's got no interest other than your success going on. And I like to call it I'm constantly trying to think about, how do I clear the runway to get you in your zone of excellence? I'm trying to clear the runway, get stuff out of the way that you don't need to be worrying about, to your point of delegating and getting rid of things.
Well, here's the other thing, and you want to pay them and pay them well.
You're right.
Let me tell you why. You don't want, you say, well, I can get that from my friend or help. No. You want a disinterested advisor that you pay, because you will pay attention to them. So they will pay attention to you. Makes the difference. But it's something about the investment,
right,
that you will tune in and say, okay, I get it, as opposed to being passé on something, a piece of advice that was given. How many times has somebody said, well, you need to do this, and you didn't listen to it?
Yeah.
But when the same person said it, that was a paid person, disinterested advisor, you're like, okay, I'm going to try to hit this goal. That there's something about that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in having a coach, someone to walk this road with you, this path as you go along.
Yeah, I think that's, and probably in both of our industries we see this too, where entrepreneurs will get well-intended bad advice, right? Whether that's from Uncle Jimmy or
clients
get
well-intended bad advice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not on purpose, right? Or it could be. Sometimes if you're becoming successful, Aunt Jess may not want you to be that successful, even if it's subconscious, right? So
if it's subconscious.
Yeah, or their experience-based, even if it is well-intended, they may not have the experience to be giving you the proper advice. And it's free, and it's over the barbecue, and all those things.
That's right.
And entrepreneurs need someone. They need someone, financial advisor, coach, who they can just rely on to give it to them straight, and in a way they can absorb it with no motive.
And it's
right. Like you have no motive other than your clients being successful. There's no other motive.
It's what we talk about all the time. I've gone through the situation so many times, which we talked about, the school of transactions, that I can almost see it happen in real time. I'm like, no, you don't want to do that because this is going to happen. And they don't think about it. And everyone believes that they're the first time this situation has ever happened to them.
Yeah.
And if you have an advisor that's been out there for as long as you and I have, we can see it.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you don't need to do that.
Right.
And then you explain to them why, and they're like, I never thought about that.
That's right.
That's what a good advisor brings to the table.
You're right. And we've got enough years on us now to where it's going to be hard to surprise us.
He and I are the same age, gang. We and I are the same age. So
27.
That's right. We relate.
No, it's, I take on clients to where I try to make it predictable to where there's nothing you're going to go through that is going to shock or surprise me. And you're the same. You've seen it. You've got enough reps in. You've got enough reps in to know where it's coming.
Those reps make a difference.
Yeah.
Make all the difference. Save your money too.
Amen to that. Let's talk about self for a little bit. You have managed to develop a great family, a great marriage. You've got a very strong faith that you're active in. How have you been able to do that? You built a hell of a business at the same time. You've held it together, and got kids that are in the right lanes, and a wife that I want to talk about this. This is what we didn't talk about either.
Sure.
When I see families work together, it is either the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, but it is never in neutral. It's never neutral.
I absolutely.
Right?
I 100% on that one, Chris.
And your wife works with you.
Yes.
So talk to me about the self part of your life.
I tell you, Yolanda, and we have been thankful. We've been married for 20 years last November. And I tell you what she says it all the time. We really don't see each other all day long. We have such a vibrant and productive firm that she's doing her thing. I'm doing my thing, and we have all of these other people that need to be served. We really believe that the people that we work with, we serve them. We want to be in a position where we are grateful to have them there, and they reciprocate. So she's doing her thing, and like I said, manage the atmosphere of the office. And the larger you become, more stuff just pops
Right.
off. Whether it's fixing the intercom system in the office for the music, or whether just the door is broken, just all of those things. But she also, and I like to say this when I take on a new client, is that she's the one that you call when we mess up. And she's also the nicest person in the office. Oh, you talk about empathy, you talk about caring. She's going to do whatever to make sure that whatever we did. Now, I am very fortunate because of how the system is. When you have a system, you can tell when something's off. Also, when you have consistency in team members, you can tell if somebody calls an office and say, well, so-and-so treated me this way. You're like, that doesn't sound like them. And you can see if maybe that person's having a bad day or if it just didn't happen. So we like the consistency, but we're always able to flip it to Yolanda, and she's able to evaluate it, come back out and come up with it and figure out what went down there. Not judging, not any situation like that, but making it right. So I don't really get to see her all day long, but I am thankful to have her there. Her father, interestingly enough, was in this profession.
Okay.
So she came up in this profession,
Okay.
understands it, understands the time away. Now, I will say that has made a huge difference. Sometimes
She has a frame of reference.
yeah. And if you don't have that frame of reference that, clients are going to call your husband in the middle of the night. Our clients that are older, but I love the fact I'll never forget, had a young lady, all of 87 years old, had a problem with her septic tank in her backyard.
And you're getting a call?
I got the call at 11 o'clock, and I saw her call. I pick up the phone. I answer all like that. Say, hey, darling, how you doing? She said, darling's got a problem with a septic tank. Need you to talk to this man. And she handed me the phone. And I'm talking to the man at 11:30 at night because it's running all into the house. And my wife was like, help her, baby. And I appreciate that it wasn't that, she's bothering you. Why is she calling you after hours? Because the truth of the matter is that's my heart to serve. And you have to have a family heart for that. And she's got it. She understands it, and there's never an issue.
Well, and they're your clients who the primary mission is to protect their financial life. They've transferred that trust to other parts of their life.
That's right.
That is an amazing thing. That's not
that's
trust
not,
is hard to earn.
That's exactly right.
And it's hard to keep. And so there's a perfect example there that if you can get folks in your trust circle, you just become a magnet. You don't even have to go look for clients once that happens.
It
just comes your way.
It becomes that boat going down the lake, and they start to jump in. The fish start to jump in the boat. So we have been blessed to have earned that opportunity.
Yeah. Your faith is a big part of who you are.
I think with any entrepreneur, it has to be. And if you think about it, you're walking by faith and not by sight. Because if this thing was a sight thing, then there would be no entrepreneur. There would be no situation there where you're concerned, will this work? Will this not work? So you have to have some type of faith that what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're putting forth will work in the marketplace. So that was always very easy for me, coupled with the fact that I come from a very strong faith-based family. Where you mentioned earlier, I serve as the treasurer and CFO of this denomination that's on 5 continents. So I'm all over the place all of the time, 37 different countries. I don't know how I got there, but the people of the denomination saw it fit that that's the person we want handling our money. And I will tell you, it's been way more than I ever could have expected, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve. And at the end of the day, I think my firm prepared me for that. You never want a financial advisor that is always talking about how great he or she is. The focus should always be on the client. Whereas with the denomination, the focus is on them. I'm in the background with my team. We have about 25 people that I manage between Nashville and Washington, D.C. And building that level of commitment was a challenge. But once again, we're 5 years into it. We've been able to create it to the point where I'm thankful for where we are.
Yeah, well, you've shown a transferable skill set from Henderson Financial over to the church.
Once again, all of your experiences, all of your exposures have brought you to your current point of consciousness, and you just don't know when you're going to need it.
Right. I sure have enjoyed talking to you.
My friend, anytime that I can sit down with Chris, I'm certainly going to do it.
How do people find you? Henderson Financial Group, that's the website?
Certainly, Henderson Financial Group, or you can just give us a call at 615-386-9141. That's 386-9141, area code 615. But the website is probably the best.
These guys are the best, I'm telling you. And I know a lot of people that I work with can be intimidated to talk about money. And Marcus and his team make it to where it's just a thing. It's just part of the life, right? We focus on people, sales, profit, self. Generally, entrepreneurs don't, unless you wake up saying, I want to be an accountant or a business manager, you don't wake up going, I can't wait to go stare at my numbers every day. He and his team can take that right off of your plate and give you comfort to sleep at night, to put you on a journey. Doesn't mean you're not going to have rainy days. Everybody has rainy days.
That's right.
But having somebody that has an umbrella is also helpful. How'd you like that tie in?
One of the last things I'd like to say is that remember, as you build whatever you're building, success is not to be pursued. It's to be attracted by the person that you become. So work harder on yourself than everything else. Just work harder on yourself and you will attract the success that you're seeking.
Amen to that. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, my friend.
Guys, go check us out on all the favorite platforms, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And if you like this episode, share it, tell your friends, and go check out Marcus and his team. See you next time.
Have a great one.
That's a wrap. Well, guys, that's a wrap for today. We thank you a ton for listening and looking forward to the next episode where we'll continue this journey on how becoming corporate enough can put you in your highest productivity zone to create a successful, profitable, and purpose-driven business for you.